To solve the problem, or to create duplicates of these 4 cubes, what we can do is select each one. So I'm holding down the shift key, so now they're all selected. Now, if you notice here in the channel box, there's some information and values associated with the moves that were done to reposition them. I don't want any of that information to remain when I create this next set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say edit, delete by type history. That will remove some of it, and then I'm going to say modify freeze transformations. And when I do that, you notice this goes to 0. And actually, any one of the boxes I had, any one of the cubes I had, are now all 0, 0, 0. So again, I'll hold down the shift key and go down the list. And the last thing I'm going to do is then go to edit and say, modify center pivot. And then I'm going to go to edit and say group. So now I have a group, and like everything else, its pivot point is at the center. That group is those 4 original cubes. And if I say duplicate, I can move them, and if I hold the X key down, that middle point will snap to the grid. So now I'm where I want to be, except they're too wide in the Z-axis. They need to be only half of a 5-eyed cube. So this is a little tricky, so you need to pay attention here, and I'll try to do it twice to try to make it more obvious. If I press the letter D, like in dog, you see that icon now represents I'm moving not the object or the group, but I'm actually moving the pivot point. So I'm going to undo that, hold down the D, and then I'm going to click on the arrow. So what that means is you can move the pivot point, but only in that axis, which is the Z-axis. Now with the D still depressed, I'm going to add, I'm going to depress as well, the letter C for curve. And then with the middle mouse, or the scrolling wheel, I'm going to drag down that line. So the middle mouse, the letter C meant snap to curve. So we learned last time that the letter X meant snap to grid. Letter C meant snap to curve. So even though this is a straight line, when I middle mouse dragged, it moved the pivot point. It snapped it, moving only in the Z-axis to this curve. Now if I hit R, I can scale so that all 4 cubes in the group simultaneously scale to match that width that we want. So now we have one group, the full size, and the other group, the half size. So let's undo that all. So I'm hitting the Command Z. Whoops, I'm out of undos. Poop. Alright. Let's just delete that group and do it again. So here's my group. This is all the full size cubes. I'm going to say edit, duplicate. Then I'm going to hold down the W key. Just quickly make the W key active to move. Hold down the X key and snap the group so that it snaps there. Now I need to scale this, and I want to scale it from this edge. So I hold down the letter D, which means D like in dog, right? Give me the pivot point, move only the pivot point. Click on the blue arrow, which in this case means move the pivot point only in the Z-axis. Then I press the letter C. Notice I get that circle. Now I'm saying snap to curve, and with my middle mouse I'm dragging on this line. I'm not dragging on the pivot point, I'm dragging on this line, which is a curve. So now the pivot point snapped. Switch to letter R for scale. And there you go. So before we end up, let's rename these full cubes. name this half cubes. Okay, that will give us the boundaries or the basic structure we need to create the rib cage now.